Hello, and welcome to Education Chat, a podcast created by students for students. My name is Alyssa Ray, and my co-host Alysha Paulino and I like to use this platform as a way to connect with students in the Inland Empire and talk about important topics happening today. As some of you may know, April is Autism Awareness Month, so today we're joined by Eileen Lamb, author, founder of the Autism Cafe, and podcast co-host of a show called Adulting on the Spectrum. Hi, Eileen. Welcome to Education Chat.
Hey, thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being on. So we're excited to have you and to learn more about life on the spectrum. But first, can you tell a little bit about the audience, who you are and what you do for a living?
Yeah, so I'm Eileen Lamb. I'm the senior social media manager at Autism Speaks. And on the side, I'm also an author, a photographer, and a podcast host. I have my own blog in social media, the Autism Cafe. I'm a mother, I'm on the spectrum, and so are my two children.
Your story is so interesting from what we've known so far, because when we first started looking into your social media presence, like your blog and your Instagram, we became aware that you yourself were diagnosed with autism, but later on in life at the age of 26, right?
Yes.
So can you tell us like what that journey has been like post-diagnosis, and has anything changed in your life because of it?
No, I wouldn't say a lot of things have changed. I mean, it changed a lot of things in the way I see myself, and I'm a lot kinder with myself now that I know the reasons to my struggles. I grew up in France, and even to this day, France is years behind when it comes to autism awareness and really anything like mental health related. I was bullied as a child, and it was really difficult. I always felt out of place living there, growing up in France. And once I got the diagnosis, the pieces started, it started making sense. And I felt like it wasn't my fault, everything that happened to me. Like, it's not that there was something wrong with me. I was just different, and I needed more help that I didn't get and that I should have been getting from a young age. But I'm in therapy, but the good thing would have been to get early intervention when I was a child. So it's helped me process things, but nothing has really changed in the services I receive as an adult, if that makes sense.
And I just want to say there's nothing wrong with being different. I feel like we're all a little different, honestly. No two people are the same. And along with also doing our research, we also learned that 8% of women with autism are diagnosed at the age of 6. So why do you think it is so common for women in particular to get diagnosed so late in life?
Well, so the criteria for diagnosing autism are based on boy children, and autism in females is a little bit different. Like, for instance, special interests for women are not as how to say that, out of the box. For instance, I was really into soccer. Like, I will learn like everything about soccer, their birth dates. Like, I could tell you like any of like the games and the scores, and that doesn't sound too weird, for lack of a better word. With boys, you will see more out of the box interests, like trains, for instance. Like, that's one that you hear about a lot. So females are able to pass more easily. We're also better at masking, apparently, at hiding our struggles and trying to put on a show and a mask to appear more neurotypical, I guess, and please people around us. So yeah.
I feel like a lot of people's general knowledge of autism stems a lot from what we see portrayed in like movies and TV shows. But as we all know, that's not always an accurate representation. So can you tell us some associated aspects and challenges that come with being autistic that you wish people were more aware of?
Yeah, for me, it's anything that has to do with simple tasks. I don't know, like getting gas, going to the grocery store. I feel like these are things that people don't think or could be difficult, for someone. But like for me, I'm just thinking about like having to go to the grocery store is like very anxiety inducing, being around people, the social interaction that I'm going to have with, I don't know, the store person, the cashier, if someone talks to me there, the noise, all of that, navigating the store, getting gas. It's like, well, what if the pump is different than the one I'm used to? Then I need to figure it out on the spot. If that doesn't work out, I need to go and get help inside, all of these little things that people do without thinking much of it, that I can't just do like that. Now I do grocery delivery. It's great. Doesn't force me out of my comfort zone, no. And also things like social events. Like people love, most people, I guess, going out with friends, socializing. For me, it's like very, very tiring. I'm a blogger, like I said, and I had to go to a few events where like I don't know anybody, and I always end up like leaving before the end. I remember one time I tried to leave before and like kind of like just squeeze out, and I set up the alarm on the door. It's like, oh my God. And yeah, it's little things like that. But again, I'm what's considered level 1 autism, which is mild, which is also a reason why I was diagnosed later in life. Like my son, for instance, is level 3, which is severe, and he's gonna need 24/7 care for the rest of his life. So his struggles are different. Like he's nonverbal, he needs help with everyday tasks, so that's something to keep in mind.
I feel like I'm the same way. I am not a people's person. I'm not social. So I completely relate to you 100%. But I want to also talk a little bit more about your online presence, because I just think that's a wonderful thing. And I just want to give you a big old applause for that, because I know it didn't happen overnight. So congratulations to you. So as I mentioned, you've built your blog, your social media, and you showcase to people that there is more to autism than just having autism. They're actual human beings, and their diagnosis does not define them. So as a mother who has experienced raising children on the spectrum and having autism yourself, what advice do you have for new parents who are trying to expose themselves in the world of autism?
Well, that's a good question, because when you get an autism diagnosis, the first thing you're going to do is probably going to go on social media and try to find some Facebook groups or, I don't know, Google things, and you're going to read a lot of contradictory information. That's something that was very overwhelming for me when my oldest was diagnosed before me 7 years ago. And it was overwhelming because I kept reading one thing, then someone was saying another thing, and I don't know what to believe. So my advice for parents is, just follow your gut. Like you know your child best, and what works for one autistic person might not work for the next. And autistic people are not a monolith. Like we don't all think the same. So obviously you're gonna read different opinions, and you need to figure out what works for you and your child. And if something doesn't work, it's okay. You don't have to like beat yourself up if you tried something and it didn't work. And find the people who are kind to you and to whom you relate, because there's a lot of nastiness out there on social media, and you don't want it to make it work. You want to find your tribe and the people that make you feel good,
Definitely. And kind of going back to that question a little bit deeper, do you have any advice or resources for people who have loved ones who are on the spectrum, and how they can better learn and help those individuals?
Yeah, I don't know about resources, but I think yeah, it's important to connect with other autistic adults who are going through the same thing. It's something that I really didn't want to do at first, because like I said, I don't like socializing. My therapist was like, you need to go to support groups and stuff, and like, but internet is a good alternative to that, to meet people. There are some really great Facebook groups that are inclusive of everybody. Some groups will only accept certain type of autistic people depending on the language they use and what therapies they like and the symbols they prefer between the puzzle piece and the infinity loop symbol and all of that. And you don't want to get in those groups. So yeah, I mean, I could share some good resources with you that you could have in the chat or something. But really, the main thing is same as with parents. Find your tribe. And I think if it's a child who was diagnosed level 1, it's important to tell them, because I would have loved, when I was a child that I was on the spectrum. Like I said, just to like be kinder to myself and just to be kinder to myself, to have an explanation to why I felt so different and out of place. So I would have a discussion with the child who was just diagnosed. If they have that level of understanding, it's important.
And I really like how you're mentioning you keep bringing back being kind to yourself. I really like that because I feel like we're our own worst enemies. Like, who's gonna hate me more than I hate myself, right? So I really do like how you brought that up. And also, I had no idea that certain groups categorize certain things. I feel like if I need help, you should help me regardless. So also really like that you brought that up too. So how can people who have never been exposed to someone with autism better educate themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. Autism is so complex. And like I said, there are so many different perspectives, so many different levels. I mean, there are 3 levels, but like, for instance, my son who can't communicate beyond basic needs, he communicates through an iPad and he can only communicate, I want water, I want cookies. Can't tell us if he's hurt, can't tell us anything beyond what he wants, I want. And then there are people like me who are higher functioning. It's a term that some people don't like using because it can feel dismissive, like, oh, you're high functioning, so like it must be easy for you. Or I personally don't mind using that term, but just saying some people don't like it. But it's just to show you like how different it is. So I feel like someone who wants to educate themselves would have first to understand that there's that saying, if you know one autistic person, you know one autistic person. And it really shows how diverse everyone on the spectrum is. Just like people who are not on the spectrum, right? We're all individuals. We all have our own differences. And I think that's where it starts. Understanding that people on the spectrum are different, and you won't hear from those who are the most severely affected on social media because they don't have the skills, ability to advocate for themselves. So you're only gonna hear really the level 1, maybe some level 2, and very rarely some level 3 people who learn to like type. But mostly what you read on social media is only the level 1 autistic people perspective. And as the mother of someone who's level 3, it's really important for me that people don't forget about that part of the spectrum. Those who you rarely see in the media, who need 24/7 care. And for them, it's not just a difference. It's really a lifelong disability.
That's important to have that representation for all levels. So I really like how you mentioned that. What do you think is a common misconception about people on the spectrum?
To me, it would be first that vaccines cause autism. They don't. And I hear that all the time. Oh, did you get him vaccinated? Was that just after his vaccines that he was diagnosed? I mean, I hear it all the time. Vaccines don't cause autism. What else? That that we all think the same, that autism is like exactly like what it's portrayed in the media, basically like some sort of like genius white boy, basically. Like that's, I mean, honestly, that's probably my youngest is like that, but that's not everyone on the spectrum is the point. And also that autistic people don't have empathy. I understand where it's coming from, but I think it's more about the fact that we don't communicate it in a way that's, that other people understand. Like, I feel like sometimes I speak in a way that's very flat. And so people might not seem think I'm showing or feeling emotions, and I am. And it's just, for me, it's a lot easier to write, for instance. And I do feel empathy, and a lot of autistic people do. So I wish that myth would stop. Again, I'm sure it's true for some autistic people, but for the most part, it's really not part of the diagnosis.
The autism spectrum disorder is one of the fastest growing developmental disorders in the United States, and all across the world. Like you mentioned, in France, people still have this idea of autism. So why do you think that this group is still so underrepresented?
I don't know. I think it's great that in the US, we've reached a point where autism seems to be detected early in most children. I mean, each year, like, more and more kids are being diagnosed. Some people will say it's overdiagnosed, but like, it doesn't hurt to get help early. You can always stop therapy if you don't need the help anymore. And then there are countries like France who are just like not catching up. I mean, slowly, we're getting there, but I don't have the stats in front of my eyes. But in France, it's probably like close to 10 times less diagnosed children. And obviously, those kids exist there too. They're just not diagnosed. And for those kids who are diagnosed with autism, they don't get access to therapy. You think of France as like this wonderful country with a international free healthcare. That's not it at all. First of all, if your child has autism, you'll only get access to like a few hours of speech therapy, occupational therapy, or you'll have to pay for it. And if you want anything like autism specific, like ABA therapy, Sam, it's not covered, and you can't even find ABA therapists. I think there are like 4 centers in France, when here, like I'm in Austin, I can find like 30 just in my city. It's a pretty crazy difference. But I know they've been trying little slowly to change things. So hopefully the rest of the world catches up.
What are some ways that you think society can be more inclusive to make sure that the needs of those with autism are taken care of?
Well, first, I think it starts by not judging someone who's acting differently, like in public. Going back to France, actually, last time I went to France, my oldest, Charlie, who's now 9, was like 15 months old. So he wasn't diagnosed yet. And he was acting bad, I guess. I mean, he was a little toddler. And someone told me that it was because of bad parenting, just because he was badly acting. He wanted to go in the water with the ducks or something like this. And then he was screaming. And I was like, it just like really stuck with me. It was such a rude thing to say, Same at the grocery stores, again, those grocery stores. Like, I have to bring my kids, and Charlie would be my oldest, screaming, and people would just like stare, so like they don't say anything, but you feel those stares looking at you, and it's not helpful. Now, I know some people like it when someone go to them and ask if, hey, can I do anything to help you? I don't know, as someone who's not very, more of an introvert, if I would like it. I mean, I definitely wouldn't dislike it, because I think the intention of, asking, hey, can I help, instead of like judging, is just so nice, and then, there are things that are happening more and more, like sensory hours at like, I know Chuck E. Cheese has them. Some hairdressers will open early for kids with autism. Some grocery stores, like little things like that. Of course, we're not gonna do them all the time. We can't like just change everything, but having a few hours to adapt to those children and adults, because children become adults is really nice. Yeah.
Well, that's actually all the questions that we had for you today, but this has been so eye-opening and enlightening, and I'm sure that Alysha and I have gained so much from this, and the audience will gain so much from it as well. So I just want to thank you for, sitting down and talking with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me and shining a light on this subject.
Thank you for coming on. Really, thank you.
All right, Eileen, thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.